Midlands is one of the most high class and best in-season tournaments out there. It is an open also, so basically anyone and everyone can compete if they wish to. Of course, the event got canceled and there was a ton of drama leading up to this event. If you don't know how Midlands was saved and changed to the Illinois Matmen Open, go check out my video highlighting most of the early movements. I also talked about it a little bit more in depth on my exclusive Patreon podcast, and you can find that link in the description below. The Illinois Matmen Open, or New Midlands as I was calling it, was run very well, and the event had several high-profile wrestlers entering the field. Of course, there was a few teams that didn't send full squads, or they only sent non-starters, but we had elite wrestling from round 1 until placement matches, and then of course finals. There were definitely some strong squads represented with Big Ten powerhouse teams Rutgers and Illinois, along with ACC competitors like Pitt, and then there was a ton of smaller conferences really competing hard like Mac School Northern Illinois, and EIWA schools like Lehigh who mostly sent backups and redshirts, along with Harvard and Penn who had standouts that looked amazing, and finally there was the SoCon powerhouse Campbell who did pretty well. Basically what I am trying to say is the Illinois Matmen Open might not have had as many representatives like past Midlands, or some teams like Iowa, Indiana, Virginia, or Northwestern, etc. did not come along, with a few teams sitting very well known starters while wrestling other guys, but regardless, I would still argue that this field was still really strong, and we saw a ton of interesting matchups. I would have liked to see Iowa guys facing some of these top placers, of course, but unfortunately that just didn't happen, and we'll have to wait and see those matchups later. Now, with all that said, before we jump into the weight by weight breakdown, what's going on everyone? My name is Tanner, and this is TrueTan Wrestling. I primarily make duel and tournament recaps, very similar to this video, along with college retrospectives from time to time, lineup breakdowns and speculations, and breaking news stories in the D1 college wrestling space. If any of that sounds interesting to you, feel free to hit that subscribe button for more content in the future. If you enjoyed this video, I would love if you would hit that like button, and if you have your own thoughts and opinions on the Illinois Matmen Open, I'd love to hear what you have to say in the comment section below. Now let's jump into the 2021... Oh yeah, Happy New Year everyone. But let's jump into the 2021 Illinois Matmen Open. Starting at 125, we saw an impressive showing by Justin Cardani of Illinois. Cardani is a one-time qualifier, and I think last year he would have qualified if he had more matches under his belt and he didn't just wrestle in the Big Ten. This is a massive win and a huge rebound for him after his 6-0 Gutierrez loss, but Gutierrez is a solid wrestler from Chattanooga, so that was not a bad loss by any means. He would beat Cal Poly starter and CKLV placer Lorenzo in a barn burner sudden victory semifinal match, and then he would go on to beat Ryan Miller of Penn in the finals to become an Illinois Matmen Open champ. Ryan Miller and Penn in general looked amazing this tournament. Miller is a junior world team trials finalist and standout recruit for the Quakers. He beat Shaver of Rutgers, who was having an impressive year, in the semifinals. Lorenzo of Cal Poly also looked great once again at one of the major in-season tournaments by placing third and beating second seed Curry of Pitt in the quarterfinals. And the final 125 I want to talk about is the upset kid and wrestleback king Seymour from Lehigh that showed his best weight is definitely 125. Lehigh wrestled him a few duels at 133, and I just don't think he's up to size for that weight just yet. Seymour was a multiple-time PA placer and Fargo placer, so this is a great pickup for Lehigh, as they watched their 125 backup place fourth, beating Shaver of Rutgers and Curry of Pitt, making the quarterfinals also in the process. 133 saw another Illini take the mat again to become a champion in Bird. He looked impressive beating Philippi in the finals and honestly showed everyone that he can strap on a tough ride when he has to, and he looks like he's made some serious growth from last season, which is very impressive since he was an All-American last year. It was nice to see Philippi make the finals, but he typically does well at these in-season tournaments, and his Bird match in the finals was very competitive in the third period, so it was an awesome match. However, this weight was full of red shirts making a name for themselves. The first one to talk about is Bailey of Lehigh. I first noticed him when he won the Clarion Open bracket, but then I also noticed he took some lumps, which is not unexpected for red shirts. But then he would dominate a tough Alvarez of Rutgers to make the semifinals of this tournament, but he would eventually drop to 6th place doing the semi-slide behind Olivere of Rutgers, a redshirt who gave Philippi and Matten both very close matches, so he is another redshirt to look out for. Farber and Wagner were both backup Northern Iowa wrestlers who placed and became wrestleback heroes after losing very early in the tournament but coming all the way back to place. Finally, I thought Colloquio of Penn wrestled a little under his abilities, but it could have just been a bad day for him because I'm still very high on him. And then there was Drew Matten who wrestled above and beyond his potential, I thought, placing third and beating down some really good wrestlers and giving good wrestlers really competitive matches. 141 was all Sebastian Rivera, who bonus pointed everyone in his path, and Tech Fault finalist Composer Composto of Penn, who besides that loss in the finals looked pretty great, beating Cole Matthews of Pitt and Major and Phileas of Purdue, who are both elite wrestlers. Rivera has looked like an animal all season, and I can't wait to see him enter his Big Ten portion of the schedule. I really wanted to see a Rivera versus Ironman Midlands final, but unfortunately that didn't happen, and we got the next best thing. I think Cole Matthews could flip his loss to Composto later in the season, but he bounced back well, taking third, looking dominant doing it. Matthews has a high ceiling, and he might still be coming back from an injury from last year, so I'm not too worried. Finally, there was Argo of Wisconsin, who's looking to be a sleeper in the Big Ten after a Cougar Clash championship and finishing 4th here. Josh Howell would take the 149 title, and I am extremely high on him this year. I will say he knows how to win close matches, that's for sure, but he is beating several national qualifier and All-American level wrestlers this season. His Gomez final match looked like it might get a little ugly, with Gomez really pushing the pace early, but Howell stuck to his stuff and slowly shut him down to get to a sudden victory win in the Matmen Open final. Gomez also looked crazy this tournament, putting up massive points and pinning guys just like he used to. He is every bit of 149, and he's going to blow up his Big Ten portion of the schedule slowly, but I am just really happy to see him back. Barcelona was another guy from Penn I was excited to see back at 149 after he was a little underproductive at 157. He looked fine placing third but gave up major points to Gomez of Wisconsin. But overall, Barcelona looked very good at 149 and placed in a very tough bracket. Anthony White of Rutgers was a redshirt for them, who was another guy who looked very nice placing 4th, pushing Barcelona and Heil in both of those matches. Finally, Lehigh had another backup show that they are a little deeper than people think, with Brignola taking 5th and pushing some great wrestlers like White and Barcelona. Wow, that 157 final was fun, wasn't it, everybody? Not to be rude of Elijah Cleary of Pitt, the former Ohio State transfer, but can we get that form of him? Because he was a takedown machine in his finals against another very offensive guy in Doug Zapp of Penn. Cleary would eventually win, and I hope this is a nice growth point for him after his slower start to the season. Zapp is still a very elite opponent, and I'm glad he rose his stock even further here by making the finals. These two both make their conference weights extremely interesting. The 1C Coleman once again forfeited out of a tournament, so I hope everything is alright with him, and we'll just have to wait and see a Coleman versus Cleary match. Keen answered a question of mine, and that is yes, he is on redshirt for Virginia, and despite his loss day 1 in the quarters, he would avenge that loss and come back to place 3rd. Carita looked impressive for Bloomsburg, placing 4th, pushing Zapp in the semis and splitting with Keating, along with getting a pin and beating Brawley Lamer of Cal Poly 11-5. He's clearly a standout for Bloomsburg and a landmine in the MAC. He was a national qualifier in the 2020 season when nationals got canceled, so it was awesome to see him return to this form and have a great tournament. So Dean Amidi at 165 from Wisconsin goes from bonus pointing his way through a Super 32 bracket as a high school senior to bonus pointing his way through an elite Matmen Open field. The 165 weight class continues to get stronger and stronger in retrospective from week to week. Like Amidi is a true freshman, and he tech-falled Conigliaro of Harvard in the finals, pinned a returning 6th place All-American Hartman of Bucknell in the semifinals, 10-0 majored a very good Dan Bronicle in the quarters, and tech-falled a pretty good Herzeg of Lehigh in his first match. If 141 was Rivera's weight hands down, then 165 is 2 hands down Hamidi's weight at the tournament. He looks so good, and it's impressive that he's only a freshman. However, there was other standout moments I cannot forget to mention. For starters, there were 2 returning All-Americans in this weight, and neither of them made the finals, and one didn't even make the Conci finals. That is such a strong weight class. Conigliaro of Harvard looked great, beating returning national runner-up Wetzel of Pitt in a very technical match to make the finals, and he beat Olenek too, who is an All-American level wrestler, in the quarters. Wetzel would bounce back though, being a very good Ravano of Pitt and Olenek of Northern Illinois to place 3rd. Hartman, the returning Bucknell All-American, ended up taking 5th. This is only the halfway point in the season, so down performances now can be beneficial entering your conference half of the year, so don't think too much into this for Wetzel and Hartman. Overall, this weight was loaded at the Illinois Matmen Open, even without Hamidi. I mean, all 8 guys who placed were studs, which proves my point that 165 is going to be wild at NCAAs, and it seems like every week there's a new guy entering the chat that could be a title contender. Man, I feel like these weights just keep getting crazier and crazier. At 174, we saw unrostered former Lehigh recruit, MPA state champ Edmund Ruth take the gold, and yes, it is Ed Ruth's younger brother. I'm not sure where Edmund Ruth will find his new home, but for now, let's honor his awesome tournament. He would beat a very good Kaufman of Northern Illinois in the finals in an overtime thriller. This might sound weird, but Ruth kinda reminds me of former college wrestler and national runner-up Levon Mays from Missouri. I think my reasoning for this is where Edmund Ruth and Levon Mays are similar, is that they sort of both put you to sleep with their hand fight and the way they move a little bit, but it's still fun to watch. But they're so technical and fast, so when they go, you better watch out or, well, wake up. Plus, it seems like he knows how to win those tight matches based off this and the Clarion Open results. Overall, very good performance for Edmund Ruth, and also Kaufman of Northern Illinois. He had a very nice performance making the finals, beating Kim of Harvard, who was a nice quality win, along with beating Hofstra redshirt and standout Heller in the semifinals. This would probably be the story of the tournament if Edmund Ruth didn't win at all, but a high school senior also took third, only losing to Ruth at this tournament. Manuel Rojas is an Iowa State commit who is a stud from the Glove State, Michigan. He beat some high D1 starters like Ninehouse of Purdue and Pedro of Brown. I think it goes without saying that this is very impressive as a high schooler. I think we are seeing a serious development in high school wrestling also, and it is happening faster and faster each year. We are going to see true freshmen or high school seniors grow a name for themselves very early in their career or even before their career starts. Finally, there was Turley of Rutgers, who was the 1 seed entering this bracket as a returning All-American, who ended up dropping an early match and then medical forfeiting out at the beginning of day 2 to not place. I thought he was taking a medical redshirt this year after not wrestling much this year and losing very early on in the season, and we haven't seen him since that loss. But I honestly just chalk this up to him being injured, his performance here at the Matmen Open. And I hope the returning All-American comes back stronger from this, and I know he will considering he is an All-American, but he has to handle his injuries properly. Kaufman versus Ruth was a very good match, but I think a Turley at his All-American form would have been great to see against Edmund Ruth. 184 was another crazy and wild weight, with 2 All-Americans also not making the finals, very similar to 165, but standing in their way was returning 4-time All-American Miles of Mena, Michigan, and national champ returning to the folk style scene, Mark Hall from Penn State Orwell, the Penn RTC. So this weight was clearly either one of, if not the deepest and toughest weight at the Matmen Open. More impressively, Amin won this weight class, making his folk style debut at the Illinois Matmen Open. He looked so impressive, beating Britt Wilson, a returning All-American of Northern Illinois, in the semifinals, and then especially beating Mark Hall in the finals. Like I said in my Michigan lineup video, if you do not think he is a title contender nationally at this weight class, you are crazy, because he looked amazing. Mark Hall's news to wrestle at Midlands clearly took wrestling fans by storm, and to see him at 184 was really fun. He clearly has been training freestyle for a while now, and his folk style was a little rusty, but he looked awesome as always in my opinion. Bernie Trulax, we finally saw wrestle some elite opponents up at his new weight class, 184, looking pretty impressive, taking third, and he gave Mark Hall a relatively competitive match. Britt Wilson of Northern Illinois would have a minor down performance, but nothing too crazy that he can't bounce back from. He would end up taking 6, getting shut out by Amin in the semifinals, losing to Zach Bronigo of Illinois, who also looked very impressive, and losing to Munoz, who looked super productive at this tournament for Oregon State. Zach Bronigo only lost to Truax here twice, and beat Wilson to make the 3rd place match. This was only his 2nd weigh-in this year, so it was very nice to see he has recovered from his first half rest for this season, and it's really paying off for him as he took 4th here. 197 saw serious offseason transfer improvements from Greg Bolsett of Rutgers, being a returning national runner-up Bonacorsi of Pitt in the finals. Bolsek has looked like a stud all year, and his transfer to Rutgers seems to have really paid off. Bonacorsi did lose in the finals, but he looked great as well, majoring Ryan Reyes of Oregon State in the semifinals. There was also Urbas of Penn, who wrestled very competitively in our productive tournament, placing 5th for the Quakers. Then there was also high recruit Braxton Amos of Wisconsin, who lost to Bolzak in the semifinals, but would bounce back to take 3rd, and his true standing at the 197 pecking order seems to slowly become more and more clear. Another major under-the-radar headline was Division III wrestler Ballridge of North Central made the 3rd place match, and he would eventually end up losing to Braxton Amos, but this is awesome for Ballridge to wrestle so well and competitively against these elite wrestlers. Wrapping up all the weight classes, we ended with 285, where Hilger would win the bracket, beating Ryder Redshirt Laird, who was a MAC runner-up and round of 12 finisher last season. Laird was a bump up from 197 last year, so I'm assuming he is bulking up and improving his wrestling even more during his redshirt this season. Hilgard and Laird both look very impressive in this moderate field. Hilgard majored everyone leading up to Laird, who he beat 2-0 in the finals. Laird bonus pointed everyone leading up to the finals, including Aguilar, Cal Poly, and pinning a very good Luffman of Illinois. Slinger of Pitt made the semifinals, but would eventually drop all the way down to 6th, but he looked like a promising ACC threat for Pitt. There was also another Lehigh backout standout Taylor, who lost very early in the tournament and worked his way all the way back into the 3rd place match, where he would eventually lose to Luffman of Illinois, who had a relatively impressive tournament though. Well everyone, that was my Illinois Matmen Open weight by weight breakdown. We saw some elite wrestling from start to finish, and it was a pretty cool event honestly. It is unfortunate the original Midlands got cancelled by Northwestern just for Northwestern to host a tri-meet a few days later. But the Open was easily the next best thing. I thought there was some serious standouts like Hamidi crushing a very tough bracket, and Amin winning OW and beating some of the top 184s, along with Mark Hall, who he never beat before. From a team perspective, Pitt won the overall tournament, which was extremely awesome and good for that team. I think Pitt had a slow start to this year, so it's nice to see them get a title trophy at an elite tournament like this, and hopefully they can continue to raise their stock, especially as they enter ACC play. Rutgers, Illinois, and Penn also seriously overperformed in my opinion, with several finalists or champs along with multiple non-expected placers. Campbell did very well too, showing that they are still the top contender for the SoCon, and the Milner vs. Howe 149 match will be awesome and I cannot wait to see it in the SoCon. Leo also did amazing and they didn't send any starters, but they clearly have massive depth with several redshirts and second string guys gaining ranked and quality wins, plus a lot of them placed really high. Well, I hope you all enjoyed this recap. I had a ton of fun making it. I had a ton of fun watching and rewatching and speculating this event. It was truly awesome. Overall, I'm just really happy Izzy and Willie Saylor got some sort of event up and running. However, if you liked this video, hit that like button, and if you loved it, feel free to hit that subscribe button too for more content in the future. Let me know your thoughts on the Illinois Matmen Open in the comment section below, and I will hope to see you all in the next one. Take care, everybody.